What's going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena, alongside my brother, Mr. Jake Rongholt, Turning Point Podcast, telling both sides of the story. So it's just Jake and I tonight. We're going to hit a couple topics with you this evening, kind of give our thought and opinion on things. And I guess the first thing we need to discuss is Bubba Wallace. We've heard all talk today about what the FBI has uncovered. More importantly, the fact that this was not a, act of racial injustice. It was one of those things where some people are saying, well, we were all quick to rush to judgment. Other people are saying, no, it was one of those things where everybody who approached it in a particular manner had valid reasons to do so. At the end of the day, I'm glad this was not a hate crime.
I'm ecstatic that this wasn't a hate crime, which is why I posted it up on Instagram immediately. That's the way I am. I tell both sides of the story, and I thought, this is good. This is gonna unify us and understand. All right, then the only thing that NASCAR has to worry about is Confederate flags, but instead it was just another excuse for narrow-minded people to go on every sports radio show, crash the chat boards, and just acting like narrow-minded, pea-sized brain people, and I was just in shock of what I saw. I came from the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. I met Dan Patrick, and one of the best things about him is that it's a similar way of how I do things, telling both sides, and that's what he does. Now, did he rush to judgment? Yes, he took responsibility for that, and he even had Bubba Wallace on today. But the chat row was just abysmal. I mean, every troll you could possibly think of just came out of the woodwork and just made everybody look like fools today. And, it's embarrassing because now we just continue to show that, hey, we're divided by politics. We're divided by opinions now. And look, I understand. We're entitled to opinions, free speech. I get it. But when you make a mistake, you rush to judgment, I get it. But you have to understand there is always another side to this. You could have easily just said, oh, thank God, no hate crime. But instead, you just go off, you call Dan Patrick DNN, you're ripping on him about that, you're calling him soft and all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, this guy is 61 years old. He's been in the business for almost 35 years. What is your deal?
Well,
I just couldn't believe it, Eric.
I think it's one of those things, Jake, where, people are definitely going to, how do I put this? People are going to be quick to rush to judgment. People are going to be the ones who they have to make sure that they get their voice heard. Whether they're right, whether they're wrong, it doesn't matter. They just want to get their point out. And there are going to be, as society and as media, we've labeled them, there are going to be those trolls.
Right.
And I know that's not exactly the most endearing term, because at the end of the day, yes, they are people. But in my eyes, and speaking for myself and myself only, these are people who are simply looking for something. They're looking for the proverbial shoe to drop so they can come back and say, see, I told you so. See, this is the reason why. See, this is what's happening in the world today. And if we didn't have this, basically, if we didn't have A, then there wouldn't be B. But I appreciate people like you who do tell both sides. And again, were we quick to jump on this and talk about this? Absolutely right. But I will take a page out of Stephen A. Smith's book today and say, you know what? You cannot expect African Americans to look at this and not be quick to jump on this because of our history.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And
so go ahead.
Guys like Will Kane completely missed today was the understanding when Bomani Jones came on his show and gave good facts to it. There were Confederate flags that were flying outside of Talladega because they were not allowed in at that point during the entire race. And then also you had somebody who paid a skywriter to bring a flag up and defund NASCAR. And of course, there was no talk about that. And another thing is, let me tell you something. You want history? You want facts? I'll give you facts, okay? You guys people keep saying, oh, Bubba Smollett. I'm like, let me tell you a story about Jesse Smollett. Jesse Smollett made a full police report to the Chicago Police Department reporting a fake hate crime. That's what he did. He never took responsibility for it. He doubled down. He marched. He went on every single television show he could possibly think of. And then at the end of it, he was caught. That's Jesse Smollett. What Bubba Wallace is completely different. Bubba Wallace had no idea that this was going on. A crew member found this. NASCAR called him. If you want to blame somebody, give some of the blame, you give it to NASCAR, because NASCAR should be blamed for this, but they should also be relieved that there are no hate crimes happening. But now it also gives this fact, is this going to get better or is this going to get worse? Because guess what? Bubba Wallace has to race in Pocono this weekend.
Yeah, very true. He's got a race in Pocono, and you know what? We'll see what happens with that. But it was one of those stories where, as a country, this is one of those things that is going to continually get talked about. And when situations like this occur, some people are going to rush to judgment. Some people are going to wait till they have, like yourself, both sides of the story. And then some people are going to sit back and be like, well, they're just going to point fingers. And I think that's what's going on.
I've heard is they're broadening it. The media. Well, guess what? If you're a member of the media and you're calling out the media, you're nothing more than a classic hypocrite that doesn't understand what the hell is going on in this country. Yeah. And your lack of racial relations is pathetic, especially when you have a platform that big right now. Look, I don't have a platform that big. I am not the expert on this at all. That's why I ask questions privately. So when I go on shows like yours, Eric, or I talk to Alex or somebody like that, I got a clearer understanding on what my position is in this whole situation.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I appreciate that more than you will know. So let's transition out of that because
let's do it. I'm fine.
As we know, baseball, 1 minute we had a plan, then we didn't have a plan, then we had a plan. Man, I'm so far, like, it's baseball to me right now is like my days running together. I'm not sure where we're at. So I'm definitely going to defer to you and say, are we having a season? Because I saw dates that were supposed to start July 1st or 31st or what's going on?
So ESPN's Jeff Passan reported that spring training will start July 1st. The first game of the season will be July 24th. That's what they're looking at right now. The Players Association and Major League Baseball both passed the health and safety protocols coming up. They have new rules out there. And I think this is a perfect time. You got 60 games to experiment on a couple of things. The universal DH, it's going to go to the National League for the first time. You're going to have a runner at second base and to start up extra innings, which means it could be the possibility of losing 18 to 20 inning games. And instead it could be done in 10 to 12 at this point. So Major League Baseball has taken a big gamble on this, but it needed to happen. We need to understand right now, we are in a spiked society of COVID-19 right now. Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies, one of three that just tested today. We have the NBA right now, Nikola Jovic. He just tested positive. I mean, but the thing is, we can't stop the country from running, especially in the sports world. We need to know if they can get through baseball at this point. So they're going to have a chance a week before the NBA. And we still are waiting to hear what the NHL is going to do with their postseason, and then the NFL. So this is Major League Baseball saying, look, we are going to be the first sport to come right out the gate, and let's see if we can play a season going forward, because I'm not going to lie to you, there is that potential of a spike of the coronavirus hitting again. But I'm just happy to know that that pro sports leagues right now, like baseball, finally put their differences aside and said, let's try this. Let's play this damn thing and go forward.
Yeah. And I'm just looking here at a timeline that exists when it comes to sports returning. And I actually tweeted this, this is from @ThadBrown7. Sports projected. So this is just a projection here. MLB starts on July 24th. NHL starts on July 30th. NBA starts July 31st. The PGA Championship runs from August 6th to August 9th. The UEFA Final, August 23rd. U.S. Open Tennis Round 1, August 24th. NFL Opener, of course, is September 10th. The Stanley Cup Final Game 1, slated for November 15th. The U.S. Open's going to run from September 17th to September 20th. The NBA Finals Game 1, slated for September 31st. World Series Game 1, slated October 21st, and the Masters from November 12th to November 15th. So in a span of 4 months, we are going to have champions crowned potentially. We're going to be pretty much 6 weeks into the NFL season. And by Thanksgiving, essentially, or right before it, there will be a new NBA, NHL, and MLB champions for 2020. That is all projected. Let's put it out there, people, with some positive energy. Wear your
Yes.
mask, stay healthy,
Got
and let's
this.
make this happen because we want it. But that's a lot. That's there's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more sports arenas going on to talk about, man. Let me tell you.
It is a lot right now, but I mean, in the sports world, this is just a blessing in disguise at this point. But we got to understand right now that with the spikes that are happening in the state of Texas and here in Florida right now, we are dealing with the consequences of opening up a country too soon and people not following the guidelines right now. Now, there was a story out today that, you know, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and some of the Buccaneers were practicing today. Well, let me tell you something. Just because they're practicing today doesn't mean tomorrow that they will. Maybe they will come out in masks. Maybe they'll do something different with this. The understanding is we have to take this day by day, not week by week, day by day, because Texas and Florida, both 5,000 cases of the COVID-19, 4,300 were hospitalized today in Texas, and in Florida right now, we're still waiting on the results of that. But the bottom line is, look, if you want sports back, follow the guidelines. Put a mask on. Go out in public. If you're going to go to a restaurant, have a mask on, because now in every restaurant right here in the city of Orlando, holy mackerel, every restaurant is saying you either wear a mask or you don't come in. And it's the same in grocery stores and right now. So, and it comes back to this. If they are so strict on this, they're going to be strict in the sports world. And if a spike happens, guess what? Those players, we don't know who they're going to be. They could be out for 14 days because the NBA has that rule of 14 days. Major League Baseball has a rule of 10 days. I would rather them be healthy than being stupid with this.
Yeah.
So like I said, this is not going to be perfect. Baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. It's not going to be perfect. But guess what? It's at least a resemblance, some kind of a sporting events happening right now.
And that's the biggest piece. The biggest piece is giving us that break, giving us that escape, giving us that excitement that we have had for decades. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the NFL just celebrated their 100th season. And okay, so 101 is not going to be the encore, if you will. It's going to be contained. And I could not agree with you more. Stay in the bubble because we need that. And I think the athletes recognize this. My only concern is, you know, you have certain individuals who don't live in the United States, like we saw with over in Serbia, Djokovic.
Yep. Novak
you know, he was hugging another player, and now he has contracted COVID-19. And so it's one of those things where we're going to have the responsibility, let me put it like this, of just embracing this change for right now. This is not going to be something that's going to become the way things are moving forward. This is a minor hump that we have to get over. But if we want to continue to have sports, and if we want to continue to get back to that time frame of just enjoying our Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays for football, and enjoying our Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays for basketball, and watching these double headers for baseball, and watching the playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs for hockey, we all need to take into consideration that right now it's going to look different. But trust me, the feeling is still there. The reactions are still going to be there. We just as a country and as a whole may not be able to embrace it like we really want to. So,
well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if people are actually taking this really seriously, and if they do, we'll have sports, and if it's not, then they'll shut it down again, and we'll sit back and go, well, it was a failed experiment. Or it was an experiment that worked out in wonders, and we got what we wanted out of this.
Yeah.
So we will see. I mean, this week, a lot of players are getting on the plane. They're coming down to Orlando to get ready for the NBA, and then July 1st we have Major League Baseball players. They're getting ready to go as well. And then we just got word that the NFL will start training camp July 28th. Now, they don't have the health and safety protocols set up yet, but they at least have a date set. Now, this feels different because at least the dates feel concrete. It doesn't feel like, okay, we're going to come back May 1st. We're going to come back May 8th. Well, wait, you don't have a plan. Now, every league has a plan. And when the NHL brings out theirs for the postseason, we are ready to go. Sports world is back and running during the pandemic.
Yeah. Now, one name, Jake, that you and I were talking about before we came on the Sports Arena, and thank you again for joining me, was the fact that Avery Bradley of the Los Angeles Lakers has made it very clear he is not going to be coming to Orlando. He is not going to be playing. So let me ask you, how is Avery Bradley not playing with the Lakers? What kind of impact does that speak to, LeBron, AD, Dwight, and the rest of this team with his absence?
Well, the NBA said that any player by June 24th says, I don't want to go to Orlando, they have the freedom to do that. And I give a lot of credit to Avery Bradley for taking that chance, believing in family. He has 3 kids and he wants to, do something different with that. I understand. Look, I get it. I know Laker fans are kind of down about this, but son, Avery Bradley is a very good defender. They one of the top defenses in the NBA before the COVID-19 outbreak happened, but you're just going to have to deal with it. I mean, look at baseball, for example. Baseball has an expanded roster of 60. Now, maybe the NBA has to look into that going forward, but I mean, we even heard the words J.R. Smith might get signed by the LA Lakers. Well, guess what? If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Unless Frank Vogel finds another defender as good as Avery Bradley or just at least decent enough, then this is going to happen. And Eric, another thing is, don't be a bit surprised. Yeah, it's June 24th. Hooray, LeBron is going to play. What if it comes back in August and let's say they're like about to start the postseason and a main player says, you know what, this isn't worth it. I'm going back. What's the NBA going to say? No, nope. They're going to get on a plane and they're going to go. So like I said, we are about to experience for the first time what the sports world is going to look like with the pandemic, but also understanding that players have the freedom, and that includes in the NBA, to leave this experiment, and if they want to, so be it. I give credit all in the world to Avery Bradley and Trevor Ariza for stepping aside.
Yeah. And, that's one piece that I think a lot of people are nervous about, because I think you hit the nail on the head when you said at some point, if a player feels like, okay, this is too much, they have the ability to simply go home. And I mean, far for us to say whether they should stay or not, because, we're not in their position. My hope is that the players, the trainers, and each individual organization that's coming here to Orlando to play in the NBA and finish out the season in the playoffs, my hope is that, and my belief is that they will follow the guidelines set by Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, and the NBA organization, the NBPA. So that way we can get that back, because I really think the numbers are going to speak to people watching, people paying attention. And again, we are going to, if this all goes off the way I had mentioned earlier with all the dates that I gave you, we are going to be flooded with sports. And it's going to be something truly that is going to be I'm going to say, once in a lifetime opportunity, that in 20, 30, 40 years from now, people are going to be talking about this if it is pulled off. And my hope is that it will. Truly, my hope is that it will.
I'm staying optimistic. I believe it is going to. I mean, Pacers' Malcolm Brogdon also tested positive for the coronavirus. The first thing he said is, I will be joining the Pacers in Orlando. So once he's done with quarantine, he has the freedom to fly down to Orlando and try and see if he can bring a championship for Indiana. And I know people are laughing at me right now. I get it. But just understand where I'm coming from. From the player's point of view, they want to play.
Yep.
It's the same in baseball. They want to play. NFL, they want to play. When you got the GOAT, Tom Brady, out there with Rob Gronkowski practicing, they want to play. So understand, they want to play, they want to get paid, and they want people to be watching. So guess what? That's your early Christmas gift. Let's return the favor and just follow the guidelines, and hopefully this becomes a success.
Yeah. And we're going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Jake, my brother,
right.
Thank you. Turning Point Podcast, telling both sides of the story, and your man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. Everyone have a great night, and we will definitely talk to you soon. See it.
Wear a mask.